Hello, this is Amber Willenberg from the U of L Libraries, and in this video, we're going to talk about developing a search strategy and using that search strategy to find sources for your research paper on education in America. This research requires you to incorporate 6 to 8 scholarly sources. We'll start by talking about what scholarly sources, also called peer-reviewed sources or academic sources, look like. Let's take a look at this article, Students' Voices on Generative AI, Perceptions, Benefits, and Challenges in Higher Education. This is a scholarly source, but how do we know this? First of all, we can read the abstract to see that this study explores university students' perceptions of generative AI technologies, such as ChatGPT, in higher education, and that the authors conducted a survey of 399 undergraduate and postgraduate students from various disciplines for the article. In other words, the purpose of this article is to present research. This is a key feature of scholarly articles. They add new knowledge to an ongoing scholarly conversation, in this case, a larger conversation about generative AI's influence on college students. Next, we can see that the authors work at the University of Hong Kong. Academic articles are usually written by professional scholars associated with a college or university. You can see that this article was published in the International Journal of Educational Technology in Higher Education. If we Google this title, we can easily find out that this is a peer-reviewed journal, meaning articles published in the journal undergo a formal review process involving other scholars reading and responding to the work. Finally, if we scroll to the end of this article, we'll find an extensive bibliography with tons of citations. Academic articles are written as part of a larger scholarly conversation on a topic, and the bibliography shows how the authors have situated themselves within that conversation. By citing scholarly sources like this in your own research, you're participating in the scholarly conversation as well. Now that we have an understanding of what scholarly sources are, we can talk about finding them. The library is the best place to get started with your research, and it's especially useful for finding scholarly sources. These types of sources are expensive, and your tuition dollars help pay for the library to provide access to them. While you might be able to find some scholarly sources on Google, you'll often run into a paywall and not be able to read the whole article for free. Another issue with searching for peer-reviewed sources on Google is that you'll probably get millions of results for your search and have a hard time narrowing the results down to high-quality academic sources. In library databases, your searches will return fewer results, but the results have been curated by humans who decided that these sources are useful for college-level research. However, because library databases are more specialized, it's helpful to develop a strategy before we begin searching. Let's say we are researching the impact of generative AI on higher education. My research question could be, what impact does generative AI have on higher education? If we were using Google to do our research, we could simply search for this question as is to get results. When searching in the library, though, we'll search using keywords, the most important words from our research question, since database searching is more specialized than Google searching. In this case, generative AI and higher education are the most important words from our question. We don't just want to stop there, though. It can be helpful to think about ways of broadening and narrowing this question with our keywords. We could think of different words for higher education, like college or academia. We could specify particular types of generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini. We could also add keywords that would help us narrow down our topic, like college students if we're interested in the effects of generative AI on college students specifically. Brainstorm as many keywords as you can. Having more keywords gives you more options for your search, so you don't get overwhelmed or stuck when you start searching. If you need assistance brainstorming keywords, a generative AI tool like ChatGPT can be a great thinking partner. Try a prompt like, "Give me a list of keywords for this research question," and type your research question. For my research question, ChatGPT helped me add the keywords large language models, academic integrity, and educational impact. Once you've developed your search strategy, you can begin using that strategy to find sources through the library. Let's get started on the library homepage, library.louisville.edu. If you're off campus, you can still use the library's resources. You'll just be prompted to log in with your ULink ID and password when accessing our resources. The best place to get started finding peer-reviewed sources is the library's subject guides. These subject guides divide up library databases by subject area, making it easier for you to find the most relevant resources for your research topic. For my research question about generative AI and higher education, I might choose to search in education databases or engineering and technology databases. A database is simply a searchable collection of thousands of sources, many of which are scholarly sources. A good starting point for any research is the Any Topic Guide, and I would recommend you all get started here with your research. We'll click on the first recommended database listed here, EBSCO Academic Search Complete. EBSCO Academic is a multidisciplinary database that covers a wide variety of subject areas. Most of you will be able to find sources for your research in this database, but feel free to search in subject-specific databases as well. In EBSCO Academic, one of the first things you'll notice is that there are multiple search boxes at the top of the page. This is why we developed our search strategy with a list of keywords. We'll enter one keyword per box. Let's try some searches. First, we'll put generative AI in the first box and higher education in the second. This search gave us just over 200 results. We can go ahead and look through these results to see if any are useful, or we can try narrowing down our list of results with our keywords. Let's add a third keyword, students. We now have just over 100 results. Keep in mind that you'll probably try out several searches with different combinations of your keywords in order to get the most relevant results. If you click source type under the search box, you can see that most of our results include scholarly articles, as well as some magazines and newspapers. If you only want to find scholarly sources, which are required for this assignment, you can simply click the peer-reviewed button under the search box. At this point, you can begin looking through the articles to find sources that seem relevant to your research question. I'm going to go ahead and click on this article, A Critical Review of Gen AI Policies in Higher Education Assessment. I know this is a peer-reviewed article because it's labeled as peer-reviewed. In library databases, news will be labeled as news and other source types will be labeled appropriately, so it's really easy to tell what you're looking at. The first thing you should do when you click on an article is scroll down and read the abstract. Always read the abstract because it will give you a quick overview of the whole article, helping you determine if it's useful for your research before you read the whole thing. Another helpful tool here is the Cite button, a little quotation mark at the top right. Click this to get the citation for the article in the appropriate style. If you decide you want to save this article to read later, there are a couple of options you can choose from. First, you can see if there is a PDF or download button available under the article. If so, feel free to save that directly to your computer. Another option is to use the Share arrow button to email yourself the article. If there is no PDF or other access options, you can click More Information. In this case, our library doesn't have this article available, so you can simply click the Request Item through Interlibrary Loan button to request a copy of the article be sent to you. You'll fill out a form and we'll send you the PDF of the article, usually within a few days. This has been a brief overview of using the library to conduct research. If you ever have any questions while conducting research, librarians are here to help. On the library homepage, click Ask Us to chat with a librarian Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, and find more ways to get in contact with us. You can even schedule an in-person or virtual research appointment with a librarian for in-depth research help. Thanks!